You understand? Concerning that's actually affecting that in the world today. Let's just call it that way, and let's just keep getting reactions. You'll be here. I guess you'll be here while Mr. Elie Smith, your twin brother, for this circumstance, sits and have his own talk. You know, people always love having both of you, on set.
Well, we thank them.
Okay, so prepare for Mr. Elie Smith and Mr. Henry Kejang will be receiving Mr. Elie Smith here, and let's just get this reaction coming in, from Ebenezer, Pastor Ebenezer from Bamenda, who says, "Good morning. No, I am against jungle justice because by God's standard, no man has the right to take another man's life, no matter the crime." That's Genesis chapter 9, verse 5. If you want to verify, he said, "Read and at the hand of every beast." Okay, he says Genesis chapter 5, verse 9. Chapter 9, verse 5. I beg your pardon. Reads, "At the hand of every beast will require the blood of man, and at the hand of every man's brother will require the life of a man." So please tell the police that kills another how that God is waiting for them on Judgment Day. For every blood shed by their hands is on their head. That's Pastor Ebenezer. That even the police when I stop for the keep amend the people them because the blood dead now for now. Head. Anyway, there's another reaction coming from Uzor from Bamenda. "Why must you kill? Were you the one that created the person? No one is righteous." Uzor from Bamenda. "Jungle justice is not the answer. 4 students were killed in the University of Lagos, Nigeria, by police, an angry mob thinking that they were robbers, but they were not." So, jungle justice, majority of you say jungle justice is not at all good. This is another one coming. Henry in Ginicum says, "Mr. Fonkam, greetings. We are anxiously awaiting for Henry to read the names, please." Well, I would definitely ask that we find the Post newspaper of yesterday because we have to read the names of all those who have been arrested due to the Anglophone problems. Henry from Ginicum, by the end of the show, we're probably going to do that, okay? Let's use this opportunity. Serge from Bonamusadi says, "Most often do we carry that act, that is of jungle justice? Those who carry the act are really criminals. And I think the law should punish such people severely." Okay, those who perpetrate jungle justice. Now, let's receive Mr. Elie Smith.
Elie has a Bible. Elie has a Bible.
Mr. Elie Smith, good morning.
Good morning.
Show us your Bible. I mean, why did you come to, what are you looking for? I know you're researching and...
Elie has a Bible.
Well, it's good he says the Bible, but it's a book written by Philip Howard.
Okay, Philip. Okay, Pax Technica.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
yeah, right.
That's great.
Yeah.
What is Pax Technica actually?
Well, Pax Technica, just like when you had in the old days Pax Britannica or Pax Romana.
Yeah.
It is just a social, economic, and institutional framework that will be running the world. Pax Technica, and technique, it means technique. That, for example, what is going to rule the world tomorrow? For example, social media. We have seen already that it is having a preponderant role today in the world.
Yeah.
Formerly, those who used to rule or have preponderance or dominance were Western countries, the United States and Western countries. But this time around, we have discovered that the most users come from Asian countries. And then there are also 2 schools of thoughts. There is this internet controlled by the Western democracy, and then a group of internet proponents coming from dictatorial regimes such as China, North Korea, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. Those are competing fronts in this Pax Technica today. And within Pax Technica, for example, during the British Pax Britannica, Britain ruled the world, used, for example, the other parts of the Commonwealth for prosperity into the mainland England. And it's the same thing that happened also during the Pax Romana. During the Pax Romana, Rome was able to control most part of the world because of the roads that they created, the water channels. And today, the Pax Technica, those who are going to control Pax Technica, those who will be capable to have the know-how, to have the infrastructure.
The Asians.
And that is what is going on today. So you have the most dominant comes from the Western world, and then you have the new ones coming from the dictatorial regime, as I said, Venezuela, Cuba, China, Iran, and Russia.
It's amazing because at different seasons or different periods in time of history, you know, what is said to be development or the most widespread development is, you know, the person who actually detains a majority or detains the top, you know, techniques is the one actually governing the world. And this time around, we're living in a technology era where those who master and those who are leading in terms of technology can rule the world. And that's why the Pax Technica is actually, you know, in force at the moment. It makes more sense. And the Asians, like you said, are really coming up strong. They're waxing strong, and they're taking the lead. I mean, they're taking over the world.
Exactly, they are taking over the world. Most of them, most internet users are in Asia today. If you come to Africa, the largest where you have people who are online a lot, you have South Africa, Nigeria, North Africa, and East Africa. Cameroon is just an infinite minority. Even
though we have the Silicon Mountain here, that's a great sign, I think. But Cameroon is really an infinite minority, like you said.
Yes, we have we had the Silicon Mountain at Boya. That the government of Cameroon is destroying it. So you see, because the government of Cameroon for 70 days now, there's no internet in West Cameroon.
And it's huge for those in this technological world, because one day is a lot of revolution and evolution in their sector. For 70 days cut off from this, I mean, it's amazing. It's just
I think 70 days, it gives them opportunity to rethink. And sometimes, you know, when you are deprived of certain things, you now have to rethink another strategy to come out from it.
Wonderful, Kejang, because as he has said, as he's saying that people have to rethink, it is true. Now in West Cameroon, people have discovered an astute way to circumvent this internet ban. People are now using the internet ban. People have rethought something, and now they have seen a brilliant way to cut around the internet ban, and people are using the internet in West Cameroon, though it's not official. Yes. So we are going to make a report on that, how people have been able to break in the codes, because what the government of Cameroon is doing is that some banks have internet connections, and people have been able now to
hack into the
system,
of course,
and then to have internet. And
that will be dangerous, because if the wrong people hack into the system, they might even steal from the banks, and that will be government's fault.
It's going to be government's fault, and as we go, it's also going to be the fault of the providers. And that's the reason why today there is this necessity, because we have a government that is having an idea of living in the 17th or the 19th or the 20th century with people who are in the 21st century. And that's the reason why the movement, like the consortiums and all the civil society movement in West Cameroon, have been able to beat the Cameroon government hands down, because the government of Cameroon has a bunch of old men and women running the country.
Slow to think,
and who are not able to adapt to the current trend of things, and they're not able to adapt to this technica that is going on.
And I had a talk with Alain Blaise Batongue, who is the Vice President of ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, who talked much about the inclusion, you know, because, you know, bringing the civil society on board, just all what we are saying. And that is where the government is failing, because it is now incumbent on our government to encourage or to be inclusive in its management style, bringing in the civil society so that they could even contribute. I think the government is failing on that part, like we are seeing. But then there's a paradox now. We send some people in front to project the image of the country, whereas the image is not the image that we know back home.
Okay, after this this detailed definition of PAC Technica, you know, and we see how much Asia is actually rising in that domain and taking over power, especially China. We'll be talking about the reasons for the ban of Huawei Technologies in the United States of America. We know that Huawei is a Chinese-based company, and it is a company that deals in high-tech and telecommunications and everything that has to do with technology as well. So, what justifies the ban of Huawei Technologies in the U.S. most especially?
That's very good, Steve, which means that you are very aware, you are trendy, you follow the trend of news. Huawei technology was banned in the United, or is currently banned to do business in the United States, in spite of all efforts, all type of stratagems put in place by Huawei to buy stakes in communication companies in the United States. It has been banned simply because Huawei has a very appalling past in the way it does things. One, Huawei was the company that constructed the air defense system of Saddam Hussein when Saddam Hussein was ruling Iraq. I know that most people seem to love Saddam Hussein. Some people think that Saddam Hussein was a kind of hero. No, Saddam Hussein was a villain, a vile dictator who practiced ethnic cleansing in his own country. This is a man, just to give a point of how appalling his regime was. In Alabja, he decided to use chemical weapons to wipe an entire village. And then the people of southern Iraq, at Basra, he decided, when the people were against him, like what the people of West Cameroon are doing today, he decided to go and dry the entire grass field of Basra in order for those people to punish them, simply because there was one gentleman who rose up one day, I think when his motorcade was passing, and then he threw a stone or something like that. And then, beside punishing the people of Iraq, what he did was that he exported his racist, annihilationist way of doing things to West Africa. Remember, in 1989, the war between the Mauritanians and the black Mauritanians. In Mauritania, there are two groups of people. They are all blacks, but there are some groups of black people who are clearer in complexion. They call them the white Moor. In the Moorish language, they call them the Beidan. And then you have the Haratins, who are the majority. They are the blacks who were enslaved in those days by the Beidans there. But the government of Ould Taya decided in 1989 to carry out an ethnic cleansing, killing millions and millions of Mauritanians of Negro African origin. And the person who gave Mawia Sidi Ahmed Ould Taya the weapon to do what he did was one man called Saddam Hussein al-Trikiti. So when I see people love him, regret why he was killed, I then don't
some
understand.
bear his name.
Some bear his name. I don't understand the reason why. But I think that George Walker Bush and Tony Blair did a great thing. When a dictator is killed in this world, it's always a very good thing. You never have to regret any dictator, whatever good thing they claim to have done. That's one. Another thing is that Huawei technology is helping the Iranian government to build a CCTV system, a closed circuit camera system, and also listening station. And the icing on the cake of it is that the Huawei technology helps the Iranian government to be able to eavesdrop all those who are, or track down everybody who is alleged to be against the Iranian government. And the question is now, here in Cameroon, but anyway, so on those grounds, and on the third factor why they were banned in the United States was simply because the same Huawei Technologies, they were the one who constructed the phone system of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. And the fourth reason was simply because Huawei technology is part of the Chinese military. So the Americans don't want the Chinese military
to come and supervise,
or maybe have stakes in communication.
To come and spy over there.
Yeah, because I think that when you have a stake in a communication company in the United States, inadvertently it might lead to a kind of spy of American technology.
Leaks.
That it can be some leaks. So that's the reason why the American government have refused repeatedly that Huawei should not invest in the United States.
And now, when we observe, coming back to Cameroon, Huawei has constructed a lot, he's actually working with MTN and many other, let me just call the names, and many other telecommunication companies and even the government. They're installing a lot of systems, they're building a lot of systems and installing a lot of poles and the connections and everything, the optic fiber and so on. They started with that, and now we have seen them bringing out their own phones and so on and so forth. Knowing that this is their background, knowing that this is, the agenda, because Huawei remains Huawei, there's no special Huawei for Cameroon, special Huawei for the United States of America. Why should Cameroonians be suspicious of this particular, company?
Again, that's a wonderful equation. The thing is, now Huawei is working with two companies in Cameroon, principally that I know, Orange Cameroon and MTN. The question that we need to ask ourselves is this. If Huawei
plus Camtel
as well,
Camtel,
because I know about that.
These three companies that we know. Okay, we'll go down to the other aspects you've mentioned, brought up. If Huawei in Iran was able or is able today to be tracking down the information from journalists, pro-democracy activists, and other civil society activists who are against the dictatorial regime of the mullahs, taking the information and giving it to them, and they can easily go and, you can be here, you go to your house, they come and track you down simply because Huawei is
they have every single detail concerning
every single detail. If they have done that,
and your family and everybody.
Good. If they have done that in Iran, they have done that in Iraq under Saddam Hussein, they have done that in Afghanistan during the reigns of the Taliban, wouldn't they be able to do it here in Cameroon? That's where we have to be afraid. Now, I'm not trying to say they have done so, right?
Yeah.
But the question is, if somebody has stolen before, you will always suspect that person to be a thief.
Even if he has repented.
Even if he has repented. Now, so my question, my response to your question is that I cannot come here and say MTN, Orange, and Camtel because they have the Huawei technology, they are now taking all our information and just giving it over to the government of Cameroon. I can't say it, but there is a problem. When the government of Cameroon decided to ban the internet in West Cameroon, when MTN and Orange decided to run amok to respect the information or the orders in detail, that raises suspicion. So we have to be afraid now to use Huawei technology, because maybe everything that we are doing is being handed over to the government.
Because if the distributors or maybe the providers of the services can listen and comply with the government, even though they claim it's not their will, it means they are just being forced to, succumb to the government, to apply government decision on its people, then everything can happen. I mean, it opens up a paragraph, or maybe it opens up the parenthesis that everything can actually happen, and we are no more secure.
Yeah, we are no more secure. And one thing which is also very suspicious is that recently the government of Cameroon has signed an agreement with Huawei to build around the country 2,500 CCTVs, and then some listening station constructed by who? By Huawei. The government
is their specialty. Is their specialty. So
exactly.
Probably thinking about.
So the government claims that it's to fight against terrorism, right? But I don't think so. I think that since Huawei, what the government wants to do is that the government wants to use Huawei to be able to track down Cameroonians. Everybody that is against the government will now have his or her own data in the hands of the government, and whenever the government wants to arrest you, the government is going to arrest you. The government now can also be moving around, tracking you down, looking at what you're doing. So that's the reason why we have to be suspicious about Huawei.
Should we call that a technological dictatorship, a new form of dictatorship actually coming?
Brilliant. That's where I was
to African countries.
Yeah, that's the reason why at the beginning we talked about Pax Technica and the war between two giants or two competing technologies or two competing views of things. We have the Western democracies, which have been dominating the internet for long, and who are promoting civil society and promoting democracy. And I think that we also have a country like China. Look at what China is doing. China has 5 million soldiers. You have about 2 million active men in service, 1 million reservists, and about an equivalent number who are in the paramilitary. But they have recruited 5 million people to work online. That is trying to take off names like Tibet, the Uyghur, or the Xinjiang. Xinjiang is the western part, the Turco-phone-speaking Chinese, who are there discriminated simply because they are Muslims. So you cannot talk about Tibet, you cannot talk about democracy. So there are some army of youths in China employed by the government to now carry out censorship online. Now, China, because they are alone, they want to do the same thing around the world. They want to have an ally. and dictatorial regimes like our countries, and that's the reason why they want to have Chinese technology in order to be able to control what is going on. So that is the reason why we have to be afraid of Huawei.
Could it be a kind of an underlined reason for the strong partnership between Cameroon and China? Those suspicions also grow now on our minds, knowing that we have all that put in place, and knowing that China does not come to a country because you guys are too much of friends. It's on business terms. And so they also, I watched a report, a documentary that showed that China has been carrying out investigations in Africa and in Cameroon particularly for over 15 years before actually stepping in for business. So they study the environment so that they know whether it's good enough for business. So if they are studying an environment for that long in order to get for business, it means they have their agenda and it has to be fulfilled. And so we have to definitely be awake concerning all this issue, I guess.
Sure, we have to be suspicious. It is true that China carried out any country that wants to invest somewhere needs to carry out a market research before they did that. But the fear we have with China is that Huawei is an arm of the Chinese government, and that the Chinese government is trying to compete with standard internet movement in the world. We have seen what internet did to bring down dictators like Mohammed Gaddafi. Mohammed Hussein,
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden. No, not even Osama bin Laden. One day we can even talk about that. I mean, Hosni Mubarak, Ben Ali, bringing down the president of Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso, and those type of things makes that dictatorial regimes like that, those of Cameroon, wants to go closer to China because they want to control their system. And besides that, China is helping other countries like Iran, helping other countries like Cuba, helping countries like Venezuela, and and Russia is also developing her own. But the thing is that Russia doesn't have the same financial clout like China to be able to recruit 5 million people, to be able to develop her own infrastructure like China is doing. So I think as far as Huawei is concerned, Cameroonian civil society organizations and pro-democracy activists, as well as journalists, need to open an eye and have their ear on the ground to look at what Huawei is doing, because Huawei is a threat to our liberty.
Yes, you mentioned the names and forgot Nextel. Don't forget that Nextel is a Vietnamese outfit, and they are just next door to China, which in fact they are diplomatic partner. They are diplomatic partners because it's a communist regime, and so they should not be left out of the list. But then you have to understand that sometimes popular uprising comes spontaneously, without necessarily passing through the superhighways. If you are hungry, I'm hungry, Steve is hungry, Mawe is hungry, all of us are hungry simultaneously, I think we'll be able to rise up spontaneously at the same time. So that necessarily communicating, tell you to meet me here so that we discuss that we can be tracked. You remember that when Blaise Compaoré was toppled, it was not through the telephones. That is what they forgot to understand.
It was through social media.
Okay.
And that's why China wants to see command. That's the reason why the government of Cameroon, we have to be suspicious about Huawei.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elie Smith. Beautiful tie, by the way.
Thank you. Great
one. Same to Mr. Henry Kejang. Love your ties. Probably I'll just have to take the ties at the end of the show.
Sure.
So why you want to detie me?
Okay, have a great day, gentlemen. Of course, we are going to be having, you guys again on other programs.
Tomorrow is Wednesday, right?
We're having you on Wednesday here tomorrow, but on other programs on Canal the English in the course of the day.
At 8, okay.
Beautiful. You're doing the news at 4 and 8, Mr. Elie Smith.
No, he's at 8 p.m. and I'm at 4.
And you're at 4.
Yes.
I mean, these twin brothers for the circumstance. Okay, now let's end with this message coming from Professor Chi in Bafmeng, who says, Abela to viewers, jungle justice is not advisable, but at times some frustrated situations push the population to carry out acts of jungle justice, but it is not advisable. So thank you very much for watching this program. This is your breakfast show live on Canal do English every morning 6:30 a.m. You can join us as we span through the day, for over 2 hours 30 minutes, and I know it's going to be a wonderful exercise. Thank you all for contributing, even though I've not read all the contributions, but I know that God is guiding you and protecting your hearts, and of course leading your path so that you shouldn't fall in the trap of the enemy. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Stay tuned to Canal do English, for we have more surprises for you coming your way. Thank you, Emmanuel Bevika at the cameras. Thank you,